A Day in a Strange Japanese City, Part 1. Arrival in the Mist. The morning began with soft rain brushing the windows of the train. I couldn't read the signs. I couldn't understand the announcements, but somehow I knew I was getting close. The station was small, quieter than Tokyo. As I stepped stepped up step, stepped up the platform, the air smelled of earth and rain, a scent that felt both foreign and familiar. I had no plans, no itinerary, only a backpack and a curious heart. This was not the Japan I had seen in guidebooks. This was a hidden place, a city without tourists, where the streets seemed to whisper rather than shout. Part 2. Wandering without words. I walked aimlessly, guided only by instinct and whim. The streets were narrow, vending machines still like quiet sentinels, growing softly under overcast skies. Every few steps a new detail, a red torii gate nestled between houses, a cat sleeping in a flower pot, a painted sign with kanji I couldn't read. There was there was a strange comfort in not knowing, in being unrooted, in moving without a map. It made me pay attention to color, to shape, to the rhythm of the day. I wasn't just passing through, I was becoming part of the story, even if no one else noticed. Part 3. Silence between the sounds. In this city, silence had texture. I could hear the rustle of leaves, the hush of bicycles arriving by, the distant chant from a hidden uphill. No honking, no shouting. Even the school children working in lines with yellow hats moved like ripples across water. Here, time didn't rush, it lingered. I found a bench beside the tiny garden and sat there for what felt like forever. And for the first time in a long time, I felt no need to check my phone. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of thought, of feeling, of presence. Part 4. The Old Man at the noodle shop. At noon, I ducked into a noodle shop where the northern current danced in the breeze. The room was warm with steam and smell. I couldn't read the menu, so I pointed to a bowl someone else was eating. The old man behind the counter gave me a nod. No words, no confusion, just a knowing smile. When the bar arrived, it was perfect, not because I knew what it was, but because it was mystery I could taste. The both warmed more than my stomach. It warmed something deeper, a hunger for connection, even without language. Part 5. Getting lost on purpose. After lunch, I wandered again. I turned corners without risk, let my feet choose the path. Soon I was in a neighborhood untouched by time, wooden houses with tired roofs, tiny shrines in alleyways, potted plants lovingly arranged on stone steps, a woman watering flowers brought to me. I brought back that small gesture so simple felt profound. It was language of respect, one I didn't need to run, only feel. Part 6. A temple hidden in the hills. In the late afternoon, I followed stone steps into the trees. There was no sign, no crowd, only the sound of cicadas and the occasional loss of leaves. At the top of temple waited, silent, ancient, arrived. I took up my shoes and stepped inside. Incense hung in the air like memory. A single monk swept the floor, his movements slow and deliberate. We nodded, no words. I sat on the tatami mat and closed my eyes. The silence here was deeper than quiet. It was kind of listening to the earth, to the heart, to something beyond understanding. Part 7. Dusk and Discovery. As the sun began to fall, the city changed. Lanterns flickered on, shadows stretched across the pavement. The smell of grilled fish drifted through the streets. I walked past homes with sliding doors half open, revealing families laughing, eating, existing. There was no performance, no need to impress, just right, ordinary and beautiful. I wasn't part of it, but I felt near it, and somehow that was enough. Part 8, Reflections from a Train Window. At night, I boarded the train back to where I came from. As the city faded into darkness, I saw my reflection in the window, layered over fields and lights and trees rushing by. I didn't run the city's name. I didn't take many photos, but I carried it with me, not as a destination, but as a moment of stillness. A reminder that sometimes getting lost is the best way to find something worth remembering. Part 9, What the City Taught Me. This strange Japanese city, whose name I still can't pronounce, taught me things no guidebook could. It taught me the value of slow steps, of looking closely, of letting go of control. It reminded me that you don't need to speak the same language to be understood, that sometimes a smile is enough, that kindness can be silent, and that the most powerful memories are often the quietest ones. Part 10, The Journey Beyond the Journey. Even now, far from that place, I feel its echo in moments of stillness, in the way I notice light and silence and the spaces, but between things that they didn't change my life, but it changed how I see, and maybe that's enough. Part 11, The Narrow Street with Story. There was one street so narrow I almost didn't notice it. It looked like an airy, forgotten, and faded, but something about it drew me in. The stone under my feet was old and uneven. The buildings leaned in close, as if whispering to each other. Laundry hung on balconies above me, like quiet food racks of ordinary life. There was no noise, only the distant hum of cicadas and a faint melody, someone playing uh, semis behind the sliding door. In that tiny street, I felt something shift, like I had stepped not just into a different city, but into a memory, not mine, but someone else's. Part 12, A Cafe Without a Name. Tucked between two houses, I found a small cafe. No sign, no menu, just the smell of roasted beans and an open door. Inside, jazz played softly on an old record. The walls were lined with books in Japanese. I couldn't read, but I didn't need to. The language of the room was warm. The owner, an elderly woman in a linen apron, greeted me with a soft erasure maze. She handed me a cup without asking what I wanted. It tastes like comfort, like rain outside and a blanket wrapped around your soul. I sat there for a long time, not reading, not thinking, just being. Part 13 of Garden of Breathing. Later, I stumbled upon a public garden, not big, not famous, but alive. Tiny bridges cross over still water. Koi fish swam in raging circles. A small child fed them, laughing. There was something sacred in the way the trees bent over the pond, in how the wind moved through bamboo, in how strangers sat side by side, not speaking, just watching. In that moment, I felt part of the world again. Not a traveler, not a guest, just a person breathing, watching, feeling. Part 14. The Forgotten Shading. At the edge of the city, I found the forgotten shading. The path to it was cracked, overgrown. Moss covered the stone torii gate. No tourists, no guidepost, just quiet and a red prayer ribbon still fluttering. I stood before the shading and bowed, not out of religion, but out of respect for history, for people I'd never now know, for the idea that some things don't ask to be seen, but still deserve obedience. Part 15. Sunset at the riverside. As evening deepened, I walked to a nearby river. Children rode bicycles over the bridge. A man fished alone with headphones on. Two teenagers sat close, sharing silence. The sky turned orange, then purple, then something in between. The water mirrored it perfectly. I sat on the grass and watched the day end, and I realized I hadn't spoken more than 5 words since I arrived, yet I had felt more than I had in weeks. Far Part 16. Rights that mean home. As night settled, lights came on, one by one. Lanterns in shop windows, porch lights in homes, LED lights above ramen stands and izakayas. It didn't feel lonely, it felt safe. These lights weren't just for seeing, they were signs that someone was home, someone was waiting, someone was weeping, and I realized even in a city where I knew no one, I didn't feel alone. Part 17. A glimpse into ordinary life. I passed the window and saw a family having dinner. Nothing special, just laughter, chopsticks creaking, a dog waiting patiently for scraps. It reminded me of my own family, oceans away, of meals shared, not photographed, of stories told, not posted. That window gave me something I didn't expect: gratitude for what I had, gratitude for the quiet beauty of reefs I never reap but can still honor. Part 18. Saying goodbye without words. When I reached the train station again, the platform was nearly empty. I looked back once more at the lights, the hills, the quiet city that had let me in without asking for anything. No souvenirs, no photos, but my heart was full. I didn't say goodbye. You don't say goodbye to a feeling, you carry it. Part 19. After the journey back in the city, in the noise and brightness, I found myself different, walking slower, watching more, feeling the silence between things. That small, strange city had changed me, not with drama, but with grace. It reminded me that wonder does leave landmarks. It lives in stillness, in not noticing, in giving yourself permission to get lost and be found. Part 20. Final thoughts. Beneath the stars. Tonight I sit by my window and look up. The stars are the same no matter where you go. But now, when I see them, I remember that city that day, and I remember the world is still full of magic, not the loud kind, but the kind that was quietly in strange cities and quiet streets, for someone willing to slow down and see